Right, time to talk sustainability as far as racing goes, with COP26 on everyone's agenda at the moment. We did approach the BHA for a comment on this, and they got back to us and said, like other sports, environmental sustainability is crucial to British racing's long-term future and prosperity. There are already numerous examples within racing of where the sport is taking positive environmental action, the management of key resources like water and reducing non-biodegradable waste, to decarbonisation, renewable energy initiatives and research into grassland management practices on our stud farms. I'm just going to skip to I think the most important bit of it, where they say British racing's leadership has commissioned an initial assessment of racing's progress on sustainability. Funded by the Racing Foundation, this work will seek to build a clearer picture of ongoing initiatives while identifying some of the key issues, risks and opportunities, giving us a better understanding of the action needed and the investment and resourcing requirements for developing and delivering an effective long-term plan. So, we got onto the Racing Foundation. I'm delighted to say that the Chief Executive, Rob Hezel, joins me now to talk about sustainability and the plan going forward. Rob, thanks ever so much for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you.
Rob, in the performance review and strategy for 2021 to 2023, you've listed, amongst other things, environment and emerging issues. So how important, how high up on the agenda at the Racing Foundation is this?
Well, it's really high up for us. It's one of the 4 pillars of our strategy for the next 3 years. So traditionally, we would have invested quite heavily in people issues around welfare, equality and diversity and education, and equine issues around equine welfare and equine research. But we've added 2 more pillars for the next 3 years, which are community engagement and, importantly as well, environmental sustainability. So we think all those 4 areas, they might not be short-term commercial imperatives for the sport, but they're definitely all very important in terms of its longer-term sustainability.
What do you think, Rob, is the key area within racing that can be addressed to improve environmental issues?
Well, I think there's 2 important aspects to it. So the first is the internal aspect of it. So racing actually owns or manages a massive chunk of the environment. So it's got a real opportunity to manage its own carbon and also to increase biodiversity. So I think there's great opportunities for increasing biodiversity right across the land and the environment that we manage and own. But externally as well, racing's got a great opportunity to influence all those people who engage with it, all the spectators, all the supporters, all our customers, all our supply chain. So I think as an elite sport and, the second most attended sport in the country, we've really got an ability to influence a wide band of the population. And if you think about this issue, it's such a huge issue, and we're all hearing about it over the last couple of weeks if we haven't heard about it before. But, not one person can influence this. Not one event can influence it. Not even one sport or one industry. Not even one country. It's a global issue. But racing can really show its ability to influence on a wide scale globally if it takes an initiative here and takes a lead.
The fact that it's the second biggest sport attendance-wise in the UK, Rob, is it racecourse waste and footfall on the racecourse that is such a chief area of concern? And are there a lot of strides to be made with regard to improvement there, or is enough or almost enough being done already, do you think?
I think there is a lot already being done. I think the challenge for us and for racing is that because of the diversity of the industry and the way it's made up of so many organisations, it's hard to get the complete picture of what's going on. So we are, as you said from the BHA statement, we're about to fund a piece of work that will look at the entirety of what's currently going on. It'll look at the issues that we're currently facing, the risks that we'll be facing in the coming years, but importantly, the opportunities that we can seize going forward. And it's also going to try and identify the expertise that's out there. So I'm sure people will hear about this review. They'll potentially be approached. But if there are people out there who are doing work in this area already, then it's really good for them to engage with the review and to hear their views and their expertise and bring their expertise into it, to be honest.
And how exactly can they do that, Rob?
Well, I'm sure we'll make sure that the review gets good coverage in the media, and we'll make sure it's available for everybody, in terms of reaching out through an email address or a telephone number or whatever we do. But in terms of the broader question, I do come back to the internal and the external opportunities here. So internally, we've got to get our own house in order. But I think externally, we can make a bigger return by influencing those people who engage with us, be they, as I say, customers of ours or supply chain of ours.
The 4 areas, Rob, just looking at the strategy for the forthcoming 3 years, that you've got people, equine welfare that you've mentioned, community engagement and environment and emerging issues, which we're talking about here. Is equal attention given to all of those, or what would you say to people that would say, well, surely the biggest issue there is equine welfare, and that's where your main attention should be focused?
Well, I come back to what I said previously, that all these 4 areas are probably not short-term commercial imperatives, but all 4, I think, are as equally important as each other in terms of the sport's long-term sustainability. So we've never divided up the amount we can spend and said, 30% should go on equine welfare and 70% should go on people, etc., etc. We're keen that the industry addresses all 4 of these areas, but that it addresses them in a strategic way and gives us a framework in which we can invest. So equine welfare is vitally important, and we are investing large sums into that. But we're able to do that because of the creation of the Equine Welfare Board and their strategy and the work that they're doing. So we'd like to see a similar approach taken in terms of people, in terms of community engagement, and obviously now in terms of environmental sustainability. I think it's the industry coming together, working collectively and strategically, that allows us to get the best return on our investment and allows the sport to get the best return from our investment.
And you mentioned experts in the field. You mentioned anyone with ideas working with you. There's a grant scheme in place, is there, for any external influences that come in and help with this?
Yes, we've already started to make investments in this area. Obviously, this is a new area to us, and we've got a 3-stage approach to the way we make our investments. So we start by trying to build understanding and starting the conversation, which is where we've started with this. And we reached out to an organisation called BASIS, the British Association for Sustainability in Sport, and their chief exec, Russell Seymour, who's been really useful and really helpful for us. And actually, we're really encouraged because quite a few racecourses were already members of BASIS. So the sport's already engaging on this agenda, which is really good. And we've done some work with them, which culminated in a presentation at the industry conference. And people may have seen the piece that Bill Barber wrote in the Racing Post that was looking at ahead to racing in 2050 and what that might look like from an environmental perspective. Sky Sports have also done a documentary that's aired on the basis of that work, which has been really powerful. We have invested in a project with the TBA as well. So the TBA have already got environmental sustainability working group, and we supported a project of theirs that looked at the environmental impact of stud farms and how they could be better run. And it looked at 2 different models, and they'll be used as best practice guides and shared across the breeding industry, which is really useful. And fortunately for us, unfortunately for them, that piece of work actually won an award at the BASIS Awards earlier this month. So racing effectively showing itself to take a lead in an area, which is really good.
Rob, great stuff. Thanks ever so much. Really appreciate your time and explaining all that this morning. Good luck with it going forward.
Thank you.
That's Rob Hezel. Thanks to him, the Chief Executive of the Racing Foundation. Be welcoming Harry Fry to the action shortly. Jane can go and have a cup of tea and a biscuit.
2.
2 biscuits.
With chocolate.
Not one of these. No? I tell you what, the amount of...
I wouldn't trust them now.
The emissions coming off those, that's not good for the environment. Harry Fry will be in shortly.